With you in a little bit. We want to bring you some breaking news, though, and that is that in the last few minutes, the U.S. President Donald Trump has taken to his Truth Social platform, and he has posted the following. Based on the fact that discussions with the Islamic Republic of Iran have been brought to the highest level of Iranian leadership and approved, I have, as President of the United States of America, canceled the scheduled strikes and bombings against Iran this evening. Discussions and final points have been in both concept and great detail approved by all parties involved. And then he goes on to say the blockade will remain in full effect until it's finalized shortly. Let's go to our White House correspondent, Kimberly Halkett. Kimberly, I mean, is this what we expected at all from tonight? What more are we hearing from the White House on this?
Well, we're not hearing anything more from the White House. The U.S. president is the messenger. So what we have heard, though, in the last hour is that there was a lot of effort going on with regard to diplomacy. In fact, the U.S. State Department saying that Secretary Rubio, as well as the U.S. president, have been engaged and remain engaged directly in sort of diplomacy. And so as a result, even though the U.S. president was threatening for there to be a third night of strikes against Iran, that he would hit them very hard, it was clear that what he was doing was trying to get some sort of concession. Now, obviously, that hasn't happened from Iran, but what has happened is that there has been an enormous amount of diplomatic involvement that has taken place, not just by the United States, but also by the U.S. as Arab partners, as well as others that have been in direct contact with Iran. So we're waiting to see what more the White House might have to say about this. But I have to tell you that this action by the U.S. president's not unprecedented. We know that back in his first term, he was threatening strikes on Iran and then just called them off minutes before the launch on June 20th of 2019. He approved retaliatory strikes after Iran shot down a U.S. drone and then canceled them roughly 10 minutes before impact. So it's clear that the U.S. president will, if he believes it's necessary, pull back. He's always said he doesn't like war, but he also feels sometimes that it's necessary. It's that peace through strength mantra that he says that he is delivering on, and this would be further evidence of that.
Kimberly, it just seems like we hear something from the U.S. president every couple of days that a deal is imminent, and so far this deal hasn't materialized at all. I think it was just a couple of days ago where he said there were no sticking points left at all. I mean, do we have an idea of, clearly there were sticking points, of what those were and why it has taken so long, given the president insists they are so close, to get to this point, assuming that we actually do have a deal?
The U.S. president is very much a cheerleader. He does like to project optimism. And so there's no question that this is a deal that is close, but getting it across the finish line seems to be the biggest challenge. And so as a result, the U.S. president continues to effort that, but at the same time is once again threatening strikes that he has now just called off, something that we've seen him do before in order to try and get the concessions that he wants. Now, in terms of the rhetoric, well, Donald Trump is known to use bombastic language. Well, behind the scenes, there are teams that are quietly working, trying to work out those details of a potential agreement. But again, as you point out, we've heard this before. We've heard that an agreement is imminent, only for it not to materialize. And so the bottom line is that the devil is always in the details, which have appeared to be elusive in terms of getting this Iran agreement thus far.
Seems exactly right. All right, Kimberly Halkett, stay with us for a second. Let's go to Almigdad, Alruhaid. He's in Tehran. So obviously, Almigdad, we have heard a lot of threats, a lot of posturing from the Iranians. It may be too early to have any response here, but I mean, how out of the blue does this seem based on what the Iranians have been saying?
Well, actually, it's not the first time from President of the United States, Donald Trump, made such an important line, changing the rhetoric, changing the narrative in terms of diplomacy and also in terms of militarily. He just said that he canceled all airstrikes and targeting bases here in the region, especially in southern of Iran. And from what we understand, for the couple of days, the message coming out of Tehran is that this type of contradictory, this type of changing in position is not acceptable for Iranian. Just yesterday, we have listened from, these lines from Ismail Baqai, the spokesperson of Foreign Ministry in the sideline of local event. He said that the United States is undermining the process through a contradictory message, frequent shifts in its positions and demand, as well as repeated violation of the ceasefire. This is a kind of response from the Iranian Foreign Ministry a couple of weeks ago. Actually, have been received here repeatedly such a kind of message. But at the same time, we know that there is a diplomatic effort, a flurry actually of diplomatic effort behind the scene. We have seen regional actors trying to bridging the gap between both sides. Everything is expected right now in such a moment, because we do know that both sides they do not want to go with the war for the latest actually escalatory ladder. At the same time, in terms of diplomacy, they are not closing the door. For Iranian are not walking away from diplomatic door. This is also just we have seen yesterday, a couple of hours ago, also from the Iranian officials here speaking about that they are not walking away from diplomatic door. But at the same time, changing in language, changing on positions, it's kind of give us a non-clear sense. It's actually ambiguity of types of diplomatic efforts. So at the same time, we are just waiting for Iranian to respond to such a kind of language from President Donald Trump. At the same time, we know the positions for them. They are demanding declare for ending the war in all fronts, regarding the Strait of Hormuz, regarding the situation of naval blockade, and also the situation in southern Lebanon. All these fronts are connected to each other for Iranian positions. And also after that, they are speaking about 60 days of implementing such a ceasefire, such an agreement in the ground. After that, they can open much complex files, which is nuclear file, and also demanding at the same time demanding an immediate release of frozen assets. We've seen frozen assets and frozen Iranian assets abroad, and also that sanctions is hurting Iranian right now. That pressure of naval blockade, adding to that the sanctions for decades right now, they are demanding an immediate release of Iranian frozen assets abroad. At the same time, they are open to negotiate, and we have seen a lot of message coming from chief commanders of the IRGC and the top commanders from Iranian retaliatory ladders in the region.